Welcome to the Parenting Lab podcast. I'm your parent coach, Brittany, and I am here to guide you into the calm, clarity, and connection you're looking for as you transform your parenting from the inside out. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Our audience is growing a little bit every week, and I just want to express my appreciation for you taking the time to spend with me in these podcast episodes. They are so fun to put together, and I just love being able to put this information out there, and hopefully it's helping and that you're finding value in it. So anyway, today I want to build a bridge between parenting and leadership, specifically business leadership. It's this concept that makes a really key distinction in people problems versus process problems. I think this is a real game changer for how we approach parenting challenges because understanding the difference can completely change how we respond to the issues we face with our kids and how we support their growth in the process. So whether you're facing challenges with your child's behavior, communication, or even their emotional development, I hope that this kind of crossover concept can help you see those struggles through a new lens and help you figure out, is this a people problem or a process problem? And more importantly, how do we move through it? So to lay the foundation here, I want to introduce you to something called the diamond model. It's a concept that originated from the psychological and developmental research by Harold Levitt back in the 1960s, specifically in the business sphere of organizational behavior. But it's a great framework for understanding how we can differentiate between types of problems in our parenting. The basic premise of the diamond theory is that the way people develop and solve problems can be broken down into two main categories: people problems and process problems. Think of it like two diamonds. One represents people and one represents processes. The way we approach the challenges we face and the way we approach the challenges our children face can either stem from issues with the person themselves, which are categorized as people problems, or the system, the steps, or actions involved that we will call process problems. But in parenting, this distinction is often blurry, and it's easy to mistakenly label a problem as a people problem when in reality, it's a process problem, or vice versa. So let's take a look at how this applies to our daily lives as parents. People problems in parenting occur when the issue is rooted in your child's personal traits, choices, or behaviors. It often feels like a conflict between you and your child, or between your child and others. It can show up as an issue of character, temperament, or individual resistance to rules or expectations. Examples of people problems might be things like your child constantly challenging authority or refusing to follow instructions, persistent defiance or arguing no matter how many times you explain something, or emotional outbursts that feel like they come from a place of anger or frustration that's hard to manage. These problems seem to stem from your child's behavior or their response to situations. Often the solution to a people problem feels like it needs to be a change in your child's behavior or their attitude. We might think, man, why can't they just listen? Or why do they keep doing that? But here's the thing. When we frame problems as people problems, it's easy to fall into the trap of blaming or labeling our kids when it might not be about them as a person, but rather how they're processing their emotions or the systems they're navigating. On the other hand, process problems have to do with those systems or steps or methods that are in place, or even the lack thereof. Process problems often aren't about the person involved, but about how we're approaching things, what expectations we're setting, or how we're communicating. For example, you might have a situation where your child struggles to finish their homework on time every night. It can feel like a people problem. Maybe they're just lazy or they're not motivated. But when you dig deeper, you might realize that the problem isn't your child's attitude, but the process that's in place. Maybe the environment isn't conducive to focus. Maybe they're overscheduled, or the task isn't broken down into manageable chunks. Examples of process problems might include things like difficulty with managing a specific routine or a task like homework, chores, or getting out the door on time. Communication breakdowns where messages aren't being received clearly or consistently. Or unclear or inconsistent expectations on your part, leading to confusion and frustration. When we look at process problems, we begin to see that it might be less about who the child is and much more about the how you're organizing your life, how you're communicating, or how you're helping your child navigate their responsibilities. The challenge becomes rethinking the process and adapting the systems to create a better fit. So, people problems, process problems. How do we differentiate between them in our parenting? Here's a few steps for you. First, start with the behavior. When you're facing a challenging situation, ask yourself, is this something my child is choosing to do or not do in a way that feels like a personal trait? Or is there an external factor like the environment or communication that's influencing this behavior? For example, if your child is consistently getting into trouble at school, is it because they're intentionally defying authority, which is a people problem? Or is it that the school environment isn't structured in a way that helps them succeed, which is a process problem? Okay, the second thing that you can think of, consider the bigger picture. Is this behavior part of a pattern in your child's development, or is it something that popped up because of a specific situation or event, or maybe lack of clarity in your expectations? So is this a new problem or something that's been present over time? And the third thing to consider here is asking what needs to change. With a people problem, the focus is often on changing the person, guiding them to develop better self-control or empathy or responsibility. But with process problems, the solution lies in changing the process, setting up better systems, providing more support, or maybe using more clear communication. So once we've identified whether we're dealing with a people problem or a process problem, how do we then move through it in a way that helps our kids grow? Let's look at a couple of different approaches here. For people problems, focus on growth and development. If it's a personal trait or a choice that's causing the problem, the goal should be to help your child learn and grow through it. Encourage emotional intelligence, self-regulation, and problem-solving skills. Use positive reinforcement and be patient with their mistakes. Remember that nobody is perfect and kids are still learning how to navigate the world, so this is a process. Okay? Most importantly, please don't dwell on the negative aspects of your child's innate traits and qualities. We internalize so much of the feedback we receive, both spoken and unspoken from our parents and others, about our natural traits. I love the quote by Francis Galton, where he says, "Nature is all the man brings with himself into the world. Nurture is every influence that affects him after his birth." So be mindful of how you are framing and labeling, vilifying or glorifying the parts of your child that are inherent. Okay? Your approach and how you nurture your children in these everyday situations will really set the stage not only for their future behavior, but will also become their inner voice as well. So tread carefully when you're trying to fix, air quote, fix, right? People problems. Because it really becomes an issue of their character, their personality, their identity, and their worth. So yeah, just be mindful of how you navigate that. For process problems, focus on improving systems. If the problem stems from an ineffective or unclear process, work on refining the routines, the structures, and communication methods you use. Break down tasks into smaller steps and provide more support when it's needed. Also, create clear and consistent expectations. Ensure that everyone in the family is on the same page and that your child knows exactly what's expected of them. And just as a small side note here, I want to offer you a suggestion. Don't attach yourself to processes, okay? Don't ever become so rigid in the process that the process becomes more important than the person. Don't be so set on homework being done by 5 o'clock that you don't take time to just enjoy your kids' company for a while after school. I understand the need for routine, don't get me wrong, but your child and your relationship with your child should always be your priority. With so many people that I work with, both parent coaching clients and preschool parents, I've found that parents, they actually really want things to be people problems. Why? Because that's something that's out of their control. It's easy to blame conflict and overwhelm and problems on someone or something else, even if it's their child. My house is a wreck because my kids have no respect for me. People problem. I'm constantly yelling because my kids refuse to listen. People problem. I don't find any joy in motherhood because my kids aren't doing X, Y, or Z. People problems. But these aren't really people problems. They're process problems when you get right down to the core of the issue. And that often comes back to you as the parent. It's super, super hard to accept responsibility for the processes we have in place that aren't working. But when you're aware enough and humble enough to improve the systems, the routines, the communication, the expectations, that's where the transformation starts. So I want you to think about that too. Are you ready to do this work, to accept that responsibility? If yes, then awesome. Let's get to it. If not, that's okay too. Just work on getting ready. Okay, so I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but ultimately, once you're able to call something out as a people problem or a process problem, the goal is to create an environment that helps both you and your child thrive. So when you can differentiate between people and process problems, you can choose the right approach for each situation, and that makes a huge difference in how effective your parenting will be. And just to throw this out there, I'll tell you that so often, and this goes back to what I was just talking about, but so often the people problems are solved when the process problem is solved. The correlation is undeniable. I saw a video on Instagram recently where a mom started feeding her kids dinner, like the full evening dinner, at 4:00 in the afternoon, right when they got home from school. She had noticed that her kids were always cranky, fighting with each other, talking back to her, avoiding their chores and their homework, all of these negative behaviors. So now this would have been a perfect opportunity to look at that situation and ask, is this a people problem? Are my kids defiant and lazy and unkind and disrespectful? Is that their nature? Or could this be a process problem? Are the systems that are in place not serving them well? It turns out that the process of going to school all day, coming home, moving straight into structured homework time, chores, and other activities without having time to decompress, feed their bodies, and restore their physical and emotional energy wasn't working. So she changed it. Dinner first, family time, resting time, then all of their responsibilities. That part didn't change, but their foundational needs were met. So the people problems became more manageable. I don't know if they went away completely. It was only a 1-minute video. My guess is that they're just a normal human family, so things aren't perfect. But wow, such a simple shift in process, and the people are so much better off. I think this example really shows that when you recognize which type of challenge you're facing, you can more effectively support your child's growth while also making life a little bit smoother for everyone. So there you have it. That's my bridge between business leadership and parenting. We might not be managing several layers of corporate structure or solving complex R&D problems in product development, which is how this model originated. But I promise that using this insight into understanding the difference between people problems and process problems can transform how you approach your parenting. It's not always about changing the person. In fact, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that almost every situation is a process problem. More often than not, it's about adjusting the systems and strategies that surround our kids and helping them understand how to recognize these process problems and learn to navigate their environment, structure their time and resources, and build new, more effective processes independently. When your kids are young, this responsibility lies with you. You need to structure their lives to help them succeed. You need to advocate for them in their schools, their teams, their activities, and you need to curate your home and relationship to be one of peace and calm and growth. But as they get older, they can and should start doing this for themselves, No helicopter parents here, okay? They can manage their own processes, routines, and responsibilities. Developmentally, this transition to independence and self-advocacy is necessary, but our kids aren't always getting there because they don't have a solid foundation of solving these problems. It's never too late to start those, so I really challenge you to consider these ideas moving forward. So that's it. I just want to thank you so much for listening today. I would love to hear what you think about this crossover of ideas, so feel free to leave a comment or email me your thoughts. Have an amazing week trying out this new way of approaching challenges, and I'll see you next time in the Parenting Lab, where we explore the art and science of parenting and put your parenting to the test. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Parenting Lab podcast. For our complete catalog of online courses, free resources, or to join our mailing list, please visit theparentinglab.org. See you next time.